Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC hobby. Welcome to another exciting episode of What's in That Box. Two boxes just showed up today, so let's have a look and see what's inside. Lately I've been opening the small ones first, but sometimes the neatest stuff comes in the small ones. So we're going to set that aside and go for the big one. And it's a box of brown paper. There's more in here than that. Definitely want to make sure nothing got hidden in there. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are all the same servos. I have a couple of these same servos that I'm using on the two different gliders. One of the reasons that I got a fifth one is because I'm going to be flying this plane in F5J competition, the Avia specifically, and there's the possibility that you can have a servo failure, and so having an extra servo on hand seemed like a good idea, and they're not very expensive. These are a little over $10 a piece. Now, I want to talk about something during this video that I'll talk about more later. When I set this up, when I'm wiring the wings, I need to build a custom wiring harness for the two servos in each wing half. What I'm going to do with these is, to save weight, I'm going to shorten these wires probably about this long, maybe 2 inches, and that'll save a little bit of wire weight there. And I'm going to recrimp the connector, and that will allow me to have the wiring harness go all the way out to each wing pocket with a female connector, and that way the servo could be unscrewed, unplugged, and then replaced easily. If I solder it, I would have to cut the covering and desolder and cut the wires on a new servo, solder that in, and that's a little more than I would expect to want to do, you know, in the field, in between events, right before a flight. Not a good way to go. So by doing it the way I just described, that'll make things a lot easier if field repair is needed. I doubt it'll happen. I mean, I know it happens. I've never had a servo go bad on me. I've been in RC since I was a kid. It's been decades, and I've never had a servo go bad. So, you know, but I want to prepare for the eventuality. I think it's a wise thing to do. Okay, so got some prop blades. Let's see if, you know, it may be marked on here. This is something I've noticed when I order props from Hobby King. They have no information stamped on them whatsoever. They are inexpensive. You can certainly pay a lot more. You buy a good name brand prop and you're probably paying upwards of $25 to $45 for a pair of prop blades, but it'll tell you what they are. These, there's no way for me to tell without, you know, I can get the length, but there's no way I can do anything but guess at the pitch. And here we have some transparent orange. I like keeping a good stock of iron-on coating, monocoat, solar coat, whatever. This is a non-name brand. This is Hobby King's version, or Hobby King's covering. Sometimes I like the transparent, sometimes I like the solid look. It just depends on the type of aircraft. Okay, on to the small box. Got a little crunch there. I doubt it did anything. Hobby King is pretty good about packing stuff with lots of brown paper. Again, not a bad idea to open this stuff up, especially if you're getting small items. You never know when something's going to get caught up in there. Now, you guys know that I just bought a new radium, a Spectrum DX8, and so I bought a handful of inexpensive 6-channel receivers. Most of my planes don't require more than 6 channels, even when I am running 2 separate aileron channels and 2 separate flap channels. So these are the, it's the orange is the type. And they do have telemetry, and they are compatible with the Spectrum. So I like to have one receiver per airplane if I can. When I was a kid, I didn't have you don't have much money, and you end up swapping the receiver around. You have one receiver, one transmitter, a couple servos, and when you want to fly airplane A, you put the receiver in there. When you want to fly airplane B, you got to unplug everything and take the receiver over to the other plane. Those days are gone, fortunately. And here we have some more servos. And as you can see, there's 6 of those. This is also a mini servo. These are supposed to be quite fast. And as you can see, they are very small, very thin wiring, but they're supposed to be, as I said, very fast and have a decent amount of torque. These things are even smaller than I expected. Anyway, onward. Here we have more servos. Now, these 2 servos are not only fast servos, they're pretty high torque. These are going to be the 2 servos that I put in the Avia inside the fuselage for the V-tail. I'll be using a pair of these Coronas for the ailerons, and I'm going to be using these servos for the flaps. Now, they're similar in size and dimension. These are a little bit bigger, but they're still nice and thin. It's a wing servo, so they're about 10 millimeters in width or height if it's laying on its side. These have a good bit more torque than the Coronas. Both have metal gears, but this is more powerful, and I want to have as much power on the flaps as possible, because the flaps are pretty big, and when you drag those down to almost a 90-degree angle, slowing the plane down from a high-speed dive to bring it in for a landing, the servo has to work very hard to hold that flap in position against the airflow. That's another reason, not only this, that I'm going to be using a standalone BEC to provide power to the receiver and servos. This is a Castle 10 amp BEC, and one of the nice things about these is that they put out a selectable output of 4.8 to 9 volts. Now, that would allow me to run high-speed servos if I had them. I don't. But what it will allow is, instead of running the 4.8 volts that a standard BEC that's part of electronic speed control is going to put out, I can run that up to the 6 volt max that these servos can handle, and that way they will be running at their maximum speed and maximum torque. Maximum speed on some of these, let's say it was 0.11 seconds. At 6 volts versus 4.8, the speed would be 0.09. So you're gaining 0.2 of a second. That's nice, you know, having that little bit of extra speed is a good thing. Plus that extra torque that it's going to be running at will help as well. So that appears to be everything in the box. This was a nice one today. You'll be seeing these again in later videos as I install them and set up the airplanes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like, please subscribe, and if you're subscribed, please click the little bell icon if you haven't already. That will give you notifications every time I put out a new video. Thanks for watching.